already now.
Wow,
Of course, it becomes a
that's
big problem.
lovely.
Cool.
Because I don't know, maybe you know Stephanie Hobart. She was the one who introduced this meeting to me, and she said that she couldn't make it, but she would love to see the video afterwards if there is one.
Yes, absolutely. So if you go to Facebook and to our D91 page, you will see it
Yeah.
there. It will also be on YouTube, and it stays there.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yes, I
Thank
remember
you.
Stephanie. She's been very good. She's been attending every soiree. I'm glad she introduced you to us.
Yeah.
Fabulous. John, I believe we are live and recording. I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, let's get it started. Let me introduce you to our evening. This is our Wednesday soiree ahead of our D91 conference, the weekend. For those that don't know me, my name is Sonia. I'm your MC tonight. And tonight we have got two speakers talking on very different topics, one on social media and the other on the future of Toastmasters. Or maybe I'm wondering if at the end of the evening we'll see that they could actually be complementary. But let's get started with our first speaker. Our first speaker is the Marketing and PR Ambassador and Vice Chair at the Institute of Directors in London. And tonight, she will share with us social media hacks for businesses, membership organizations, and us as individuals. So we can get all the insights that she has applied at the IoT and also during her career over the last 20 years. Please welcome to the soiree stage, our first speaker, Vanessa Dal Busco.
Thank you so much. That's a lovely intro, Sonia. I'm so pleased to be here. And yeah, Toastmasters have been absolutely fantastic during the preparation for this event. So thank you. And it's so nice to see new faces and some old friends as well. So thank you for joining as well. So as Sonia mentioned, I'm Vanessa Dal Busco, marketing consultant by day, and marketing and PR ambassador at IOD and the vice chair. I specialize in social media and content. I've got quite a bit of content to get through this evening. So I'm sorry if I go fast, but the slides will be available via a link that Sonia will share in the chat at the end. And also we've got the recording, as Sirachai mentioned, on YouTube and Facebook. So what I'm going to share is not definitive. I'm just sharing things that have worked for me. So, you know, social is about telling stories and communicating your business benefits to attract potential clients and fans so you can grow. So the result is that you can raise your profile, attract inbound leads, and develop a personal brand. You're most welcome to ask questions throughout just by popping it in the chat. And I'm not sure whether we can here, but raise your hand if you have a social media strategy for your brand or for your club. Great, Sirachai, great. That's great to see. Great to see some. Okay, fantastic. Well, hopefully you'll get something out of tonight. If not, do let me know and I'll amend my presentation for next time. Okay, so tonight I'll cover why do social media, different platforms that are available, paid advertising, landing pages, organic, only LinkedIn because of time, and video. So on to this one. So why do social media? Because everybody is on it. More than half the world is on social media. These stats are from June 2020. No surprise, Zoom is number 2. Definite sign of the times with the lockdown happening there. But we're still here, which is great. And then I know this slide is a bit blurry, but basically social media connects us with the world, and during lockdown usage went up. So there's no more physical knocking on doors. Now your door knocking is digital. You might think, oh, I don't want to do that. You know, well, LinkedIn, in my view, is the best way to prospect for new customers now and build relationships. So I'm going to show you what I have found works. Obviously, there's thousands of social media platforms out there. You cannot do all of them. You've got 71% of UK adults on Facebook, 51% on LinkedIn, 42% on Insta, and 24% on Twitter. I recommend you choose a platform and stick to it because, oh, did I miss a slide here? No, I don't think I did. Oh, no, I didn't. Choose a platform and stick to it because you dilute your efforts if you try to do all the platforms. So just choose 1 or 2 or maybe 3 and concentrate your efforts, and that way you'll see better results, I believe. So we're going to talk about ad creative now. Here are 3 examples of really famous ads. Not all of us have a Honda budget. Let's face it, none of us do probably, but social media is not television. So marketing and ads have changed. We no longer even have to watch them. You can create amazing results with social media on a shoestring budget and for free with organic if you get the mix right. The best social ads, I believe, aim to grab the user's attention in a split second and make them want to know more. In social media, you're trying to get their attention to take action right now rather than be remembered. No one's trying to be remembered. The call to action is instant, so click now. So you have to make it visual and attractive. As mentioned, choose a platform and stick to it. Generally, I use Facebook for B2C and LinkedIn for B2B. Facebook can be really cheap for ads. As little as £2 a day, you can get results, but the platform's quite confusing and the reach has decreased. So if you're going for traffic, which is the most effective, make sure you have an awesome landing page, and I'll cover that in a minute. You will need to test a lot of campaigns, ad sets and ad copy and creative, which can be expensive unless you get it right first time. You never know, you might be lucky or skilled, but the right mix can generate so many leads. Lookalike audiences are great. Use campaigns, not boosted posts. Never let Facebook automatically place. Manual placement is better, and I narrow that even further to only Facebook newsfeed. Don't let it put it everywhere because it'll waste your money. Right, LinkedIn for B2B. This is an unbelievably effective platform. InMail is the most expensive format because you pay per letter sent rather than impressions like other formats. Also, you get the same result just by connecting with someone and putting a little note in there. But you can target so specifically interests by group membership. It really is a fantastic advertising tool. I've personally seen great results from this in the past. Eye-catching single image ads with benefits usually work really well, and I haven't really used promoted posts. Instagram for visual brands, it's B2C, it's a younger audience. So to target your audience, you want to think, where are they? You can do the research, it's out there for free, and you just target that platform. Twitter, you can target, for an example, an account's followers, but it's quite expensive because it is the whole world. So for the ad creative, has to be visual. It can be video or still image. There's still no front runner, which is better. Have one call to action. The image must relate to the headline. It's okay to be conceptual. I use Canva, Photoshop, even Paint and PowerPoint. They're great. And it's okay not to have your logo because you want to excite curiosity. If people see the logo, they're like, I know that. But if they don't see the logo, they're like, oh, that's such a nice picture. I just want to click it. Just trying to get them to click it. A free asset is most popular. So get details and increase your database to contact them later and then form a relationship. Sometimes the best social advertising isn't paid. So Moonpig, which offers unique cards, gifts and flowers, went viral when it asked customers to stop uploading certain images to their cards. So does anyone know who this meme is? It's Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec. It's an awesome program, and memes are a fab way for brands to communicate. Moving on to landing pages. Good landing pages are a must if you want to create conversions from paid advertising. Have one call to action. The button must make people want to click it. So it's got to be very prominent. This is quite a good example of a landing page. There's lots of options for tools. So MailChimp is my favorite. It's free and super easy to set up. But there's also Instapage, Unbounce, lead pages. But have a benefit-focused headline. Image must match the offer. Not too much copy. Have one call to action. Have a relevant offer. Have the button above the fold. So no scrolling. And remember, thank you. That would be my tips. Eventbrite is the best for events. Just a reminder to pop your questions in the chat if you have any questions for me. And we're moving on to organic posts. So I'm going to talk about LinkedIn because it's my favorite platform. If you're going to concentrate on one platform, I would make it LinkedIn because it can do business and it's also your personal brand, unless you're running a consumer brand and you've got e-shop and things like that. It's great for prospecting, for promoting, for generating inbound leads, for branding, for engagement, and for building relationships. It really is the full package. It's about sorry, that's my puppy. It's about relationships. Have a good profile picture. Use the banner space. Make your headline as attention grabbing as possible. and your headline makes you searchable. So use keywords. Try to say who you are as well as what you do. And then moving on to the social selling index. I'm not sure you've probably seen this before. It's a free tool from LinkedIn. I'll pop the link. If you get the link from Sonia at the end, I will share this link with you. It gives you an idea where you're ranked amongst your peers across a number of measurements. It's a free tool. I can share the link with you. Look out for the link in the chat and the slides as mentioned. Your profile. So complete all the sections. The about section is your time to shine. Putting time and effort into your profile will bring benefits and rewards. Try asking for testimonials too from friends and customers, because it always praise sounds best when coming from someone else, if you can. Company page. You can invite your contacts to follow your page, and you can engage with the activity tab. It's not just about posting content. So you want to do a follower attraction campaign basically, and you do that by the invite buttons here, and you see the activity up there to see all the mentions. Okay, so here are a few examples of posts I've done. So what makes a post get noticed? I think if we're going to narrow it down to 3 things, it would be tagging. Tag people in your posts, as many as possible. If people like it, and if they don't like it, they don't have to react. Just tag people, because lots of people like to be mentioned as well, if it's relevant, not just randomly. And if you let them know you're tagging them as well and what your mission is, often they'll be really excited for you and get involved, because that will get some engagement, but you need a team. Video has amazing results, that because people can get to know you, and also LinkedIn ranks video quite highly. Also hashtags. So here are 3 public speaking hashtags that have enormous followers. So if you put these hashtags in your post, that is going to get posted on a wall where you might get potentially seen by 1,022,000 followers. So I think that's quite a good thing. If you have a link to an external thing like an event, try to put it in the comments, not in the post, because LinkedIn will de-promote the posts that have links in them. But it's the long way around. It does take extra time, but I think it's worth it. I use Canva for photo editing. Better hurry up now. Searching and connecting. Okay, so this is about prospecting. LinkedIn is a very powerful tool. You can search by industry, company, or any keyword. You can search by location, company size. There's so many parameters. And when you're doing that, you can reach out to people. I always try to add value to someone's life. I don't just pitch at them and say, buy my stuff, because if someone does that to me, I don't like it. I'm going to make an effort to be useful and start a conversation and build a relationship. So personal message, mutual connections are great, because you say, I noticed we had all these mutual connections. Please connect with me. It's about relationships. If someone messages you, message them back. Sounds obvious, but yeah, not everybody knows that. Oh, LinkedIn events. I'm not quite sure why that slide is not actually showing, but this is a game changer. So you can do this by going to your company page, creating an event, inviting people, your followers, and you can search by like industry, again, company, whatever, you can search in there. It's fantastic. And anyone else can invite their contacts. So you can have speakers at an event and you can ask them to invite their contacts to the event, and the reach is exponential. And if you've got a nice banner and a good explanation, people are going to want to join. The events are a very good way to raise your profile. And I'm going to be doing a talk about that on Saturday on the Inspiring stage. So I hope you can make it. Video is amazing, but only if you do it right. So what are the tips? Phone on landscape, window in front, try to be mid-frame and not have things growing out of your head, like I believe the door is at the moment for me. That's not what to do. If you have the camera slightly pointing down from above, that's what newsreaders do. That's a good angle. Make it short. Raw is authentic. And YouTube is very good right now for reach. And onto the Q&A. Any questions?
Thank you, Vanessa. We do have a few questions. Let me start from the beginning, and please continue to add questions to the chat. But the first question we had was, what about Trello? Do you use Trello?
Trello, is that Trello?
Is that Trello for project management, Annalise, or is that Trello with a C? Do you want to unmute yourself? She can't unmute herself. I only know about Trello, not Crello. What about you, Vanessa?
I have not heard of Crello, so I could not comment. If Annalise can unmute and explain what kind of a tool it is. Annalise, hello, thanks so much for joining, and also your helpful tips on my website breaking about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I couldn't unmute myself. Now I can. Perfect. So Crello, actually, it's a tool a bit like Canva.
Canva. Okay, I must check it out. Thank you for that tip.
I just learned about that, but it's a kind of the same, but at the same time different. So it might be easier for one person to use Canva and for the other one to use Crello.
That is true. And if you're using Buffer, another thing that is great is Pablo, because Pablo pushes it direct to Buffer. But I'm going to check out Crello. Thank you for that tip.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Another question we have, Vanessa, from Andy, was with Facebook ads. Oh, sorry, my screen just went. With Facebook ads. Actually, that question has gone off my screen. I'll come back to that. It says he loves LinkedIn. However, is it advantageous to pay?
LinkedIn Sales Navigator, it's super duper. And I have it because that's my job. I think it's a super duper version. The reality is that you can achieve similar results with searching in unpaid LinkedIn. But LinkedIn Sales Navigator allows, I think, very powerful lists and segmenting to be drawn. Not necessarily for paid, but for, manual offline contacting. I believe it's worth it for me, but it would depend on what you do and what you want to get out of it as well. You can feel free to please drop me a line at my email if you would like me to look at your specific situation, because it may not be necessary for what you're trying to achieve, but I have it because that's my job and I find it really good. I mean, there's a free trial as well. There's a 30-day free trial of Sales Navigator that you can try it. But I guess the trick is about using it, and I could probably take you through what I do as well if you reach out to me.
And Vanessa and everyone, I put a link to Vanessa's slides on the chat, so do download the slide deck from there at any time.
Thank you so much, Sonia.
No worries. And Dave joined us late. Yes, Dave, you're very welcome to put your camera on. We always love to see people's faces, as you were. And Vanessa, another question from Brian. For a new club with zero promotional budget and limited social media skills, what would be the best thing to do to attract guests and potential members?
This is the magic bullet. It doesn't, I mean, you need to do a combination of everything. You can definitely do that for free if you've got some really motivated people. Please attend my talk on Saturday, because it will completely cover what you can do and how you can make it work. Or you can reach out to me and I can explain it, but I think events are going to be great. LinkedIn, obviously, some excited, energized team members, some really high profile speakers who will be willing to speak because the people love the Toastmasters brand. It's like IOD, right? Mm-hmm. You can make it happen. And I think it's going to be good, because just from my experience with Toastmasters, I mean, it's a huge organization and it seems like there's a lot of demand for people who would like to connect and be part of a community that Toastmasters offers.
Excellent, thank you. And Brian has been a recurring guest in our soiree, so thank you, Brian, for coming in and your interest. And another person who's been here more than once is Panos from Greece, and his question, Vanessa, is what would be the minimum viable PR strategy for a Toastmasters-related event, which follows on from that answer that you gave?
Interesting. Hello, very international audience. Oh, I do love Crete. Welcome, Panos. Thank you for joining. So, minimum viable PR strategy. I think find great speakers who have a profile and who are going to engage and give you time and energy, because they're gonna help you get an audience. The more people you have talking about your event, That is the one key to success. It doesn't matter really. I mean, the Queen, you could have the Queen and that would be quite popular, but it doesn't really matter the profile of a person. That is not what matters. What's going to matter is their social media profile and whether they're going to help you promote, right? Because we have some very high profile speakers in IID who have no social media profile and they don't sell out. But some people who have quite a high social media profile, a good title, really catchy title that is kind of controversial, poses a question, educational, thought leadership. I mean, you know all that. That is going to get interest and people who are going to invite their people and do videos for you as well. Come on Saturday. This will explain everything.
And on that point, Svetlana was asking on Saturday. So Svetlana, this is a workshop that Vanessa is going to give on that at the conference on Saturday, the 1st of May. And she's on the inspiring stage. So we've got 4 simultaneous stages. And if you haven't looked it up, Svetlana, do come and join us. I'll put the link to the conference and you can buy tickets there and see more information about Vanessa as well.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And we have another question, Vanessa, from Shawan, and she's asking, how have you found LinkedIn stories? Are they useful? Oh, and what about Twitter fleets too? I don't know Twitter fleets. So let's one at a time. LinkedIn stories first, please. What are your opinions?
Hi, Shawan. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, so my experience with LinkedIn stories was that one day someone said to me, oh, you can make a story on LinkedIn. And I thought, why would anyone want to do that? And I can't remember ever having looked at one. I do look at my friends' stories on Instagram and also TikTok, or I waste hours on TikTok. LinkedIn for stories, for me, I have had virtually no interaction. I have not seen any, and I wondered why it was there. So I'm not sure how long that will last. But if you have had experience where it's been very successful for someone, I would love to hear about it, because maybe that's something we all need to be looking at. Usually LinkedIn deploys features and nobody knows, and then someone just starts talking about it and you're like, oh, that's amazing, like the QR code scanning thing. You just meet people and then it goes viral, and the LinkedIn events as well. Stories, I'm not sure whether that's going to go viral, but I mean, prove me wrong. And then also, so Twitter, is that Twitter one you were talking about, like the Clubhouse one, right?
No, she was mentioning Twitter fleets, which I haven't come across.
What is Twitter fleets? Have I been hiding in a dark room? What is Twitter fleets?
Shawan, do you want to unmute yourself and tell us more about that?
I believe that's the stories version for Twitter. So it's a fleeting thing. So I think they called it fleets.
Interesting. I have not come across it.
Yeah, it's another thing where I think they're obviously copying Instagram, and yeah, just wondered what your thoughts were. But obviously you haven't heard of it about it, so never mind.
It's not like that I haven't heard of it, it's not good, because I just concentrate my efforts, right? So for everything that I talk about is just what I've experienced. What you have to think about is ROI. When you do social, how much return are you going to get for your time investment? And I've never seen a LinkedIn story. I've never seen a Twitter fleet, but I do hear people on Clubhouse, and I can't get off TikTok. So I think the really popular things take off. But if you have heard of someone having massive success with it, what I would say is try it, see how it goes. You know, it's all about impressions, engagement. Sometimes you won't be able to quantify with a sale, with a contract, but you might see people reaching out to you, or you might see impressions in the actual stats.
And that is a great segue, Vanessa, to an earlier question from Andy with Facebook paid ads. So he's asking, with Facebook paid ads, can you end up having to pay a lot if successful? He's talking about the charge per click.
Yes, absolutely. It can become extremely expensive, but if you can do 2 ways. You can do small experiment, £2 a day, see how it goes, and you might have some big wins, just do that. Or you can get the help, if you've got a bit of a budget, get the help of a Facebook person who's going to help you. You will spend more, but you will also find out the most effective things. Something I must warn you about is, in my personal experience, Facebook, after you've stopped the campaign, and it's a very confusing platform, so you've got to get your head around the platform. You've got, ad sets, campaigns, ad creative, the copy, the image. it can be difficult to keep you to get a hold of it, but it starts to run ads when you haven't told it to. So I had to remove my card from Facebook, and my client has just got quite a massive bill this month, not because of me, when we stopped advertising months ago, because Facebook restarted the ads without anyone telling it to. That is something to be aware of, and that's only in my opinion what has happened. So yeah, it can get really expensive, but I mean, try something for £2 a day with a lookalike audience on a campaign, very narrow Facebook news feed, and see how it goes.
That's a great advice. And let's go back to a previous question from Siri Chai, and is asking, is Clubhouse, that you mentioned earlier, is Clubhouse something we should try?
Everybody's talking about it. There's a lot of, super popular people on it. I think it creates amazing conversations and people get addicted. It's like an addiction app like TikTok. So check it out. I think, some of my clients are on there. They really love doing the clubhouses, and you can actually just do one yourself, or you can join them and find thought leadership and useful learnings about so many different topics. I think it's a very interesting app.
Excellent. I find it's a little bit like podcasts, isn't it?
Yes, like radio, yes.
Yes, very good. We don't have any other questions, but I think we had time for a couple more questions. So Andy has got one more. You would like to know how to get backlinks being with the IOD as well as Toastmasters?
Great. So so basically, would you be trying to get, Ali, hello, thank you for asking a question. Are you trying to get backlinks to your Toastmasters site or to your business site?
Andy, do you want to unmute yourself and clarify?
Sure, thank you. For my business site.
Your business site. Okay, so it's tough going. I'm not a PPC or SEO expert. My best advice would be, it's very time consuming to build relationships. So you can write blogs and write content and ask other people to publish them and put your website as a backlink. It's a lot of reaching out, I think. It's about partners, I think. So if you have any partners that would be willing to, people you work with, collaborate with, anyone you've done work for free for, favors for, you can ask them. That is a labor intensive job, I think, and I am in no way a website expert, but that is my experience with it. Sorry, I couldn't be more help.
I think John is agreeing with you on the comments. He's saying that make sure that it is in the same context, so that there's a linkage, as it were, a proper linkage. Can I ask a question before we drop? Or is it something that always intrigues me? What is the best time of the day or the week to post on LinkedIn?
Thank you so much for your question, Sonia. I think Tuesdays are the best time. Really? I think Tuesdays, yeah, things just go a bit more viral. And in the morning, I always post around 10 o'clock, or failing that, Thursdays, and then Wednesdays. Mondays and Fridays, I don't really see things get picked up as much.
Fantastic. Well, this has been ever so interesting, Vanessa. I'm sure all the audience is agreeing with me, and I'm going to just re-add the link to the slide deck so that you can look through Vanessa's deck and get all these learnings again. And as Vanessa was saying, do come and join us on Saturday. What time is it, Vanessa, on Saturday?
It's 4:55. Thank you so much, Sonia, and thank you so much to everybody who attended. Yeah, thank you, Sonia. It's been great to work with you.
You too. See you Saturday. Very well. So let's change gears. And do I have my next speaker on? Florian, are you with us? Impact of COVID on Toastmasters and what it means for organization both now and in the coming years. Those who know Florian know that he's well versed in introducing new initiatives at Toastmasters, so who better place to discuss this topic? similarly to Vanessa, is going to give us a presentation for about 20 minutes, and then there'll be a Q&A. So have your questions ready and do populate them in the chat, and I'll pick them up later on. So please give a warm round of applause for our second speaker, Florian Bay.
Thank you very much, everybody, and good evening. It's great to see so many people on the line keen to explore the topic with me. This is going to be an interactive presentation, so I will be asking you questions, and we are going to have some time for discussion at the end. There will be quite a bit of numbers in this presentation, but I've presented them in a way that is as simple as possible. But let's get started. Remember this, in-person meetings, the great fun that we had, and the creativity that we started to have in terms of replacing handshakes towards the end. This is from the last ever in-person meeting I attended in Spirited Speakers, and they decided to replace handshakes with bum shakes because less transmission of bacteria and so on. It was good fun in its own way. I do look slightly embarrassed in the picture, but hey, it was part of the fun. A week later, this was the new reality. Online meetings with people as small dots on the screen, and it has been that way for over a year now. We would never have expected that things would last for so long initially, but it has been that way for nearly over a year now. I'm not sharing, yes, because screen sharing is disabled.
Your wish is my command, Florian.
Thank you. Okay, well, this is the third time I forget to screen share in presentation, so the Zoom fatigue is definitely getting on my mind. But hey, as I was saying, this is the glorious days of in-person meetings, and that kind of bum shake I did in Spirited Speakers, and I do look a little bit embarrassed on the picture. Yeah, I mean, it was quite interesting, to say the least. And the reality a week later. Back then, we would never have expected that we would still be meeting online over a year on, but this is nevertheless what happened, courtesy of this little guy here. I mean, with the mutation and the new variant, it probably looks a little bit fancier now. And there's a legitimate question to ask: what has the impact of COVID on Toastmaster been? How many members have we lost? How many clubs have we lost? Perhaps are we doing better than we were doing before? Let's find out. And I've got my first question to you, my dear audience members. How many Toastmaster club did we have on the 31st of March this year?
Any guesses on the chat? Oh, Brian has got a number, 186.
Toastmaster clubs worldwide, not in the district, worldwide.
So Alexander was saying 200, but we mean worldwide. So a few more digits.
16,000. 340,000. Are
we getting closer, Florian?
My name is Florian, not Florian. 20,000, 16. Okay. Well, actually, the answer is 18,300 clubs. In about a month ago, this is the numbers of clubs that we have. How does this compare with previous year? We will find out soon. But first of all, let's kind of talk about the members as well, because we've got the club and we have the members as well. How many members did we have at the end of the last renewal period a month ago? 384,000, 350,000, 330,000. Any more? Oh, 400,000. 340,000 to 250,000, 355,000. The answer is around 300,000. So quite a bit less than what most people are estimating. So let's take a step back and wonder what did it used to be like a year ago before the pandemic, and how do we compare since? Well, the worldwide membership total of the last of of the last few years, they've been as such. I'm looking at the totals at the end of renewal period. And September 2019 is really the last one, which was pandemic free. How did things change in March 2020? Well, a little bit further down, as we might be expected, because it was already starting in China and India, so not as many people coming. But what has the situation been since then, you think? What were the total like in September, perhaps, of September of last year? Oh, 325K, 260. Actually, pretty close, 325. And we reached to today with 300,000. So it kind of the trend that we can see between March 2020 and March of this year is of the numbers going down pretty much in a straight line, actually, which is a little bit worrying, a little bit concerning in some respect. But the sad thing in many ways is the glory days of us having more than 300,000 members as an organization, well, they are now behind us for the moment. But what about club numbers? And we're looking at active clubs here. This is what they've been up to 2019. What were they? What do you think they were in September and March of this year? September 2020 and of March this year? Going down, going up? What do you think? Up due to online clubs, up. Somebody says 17. Any more guesses? Going down? Well, actually, they started going down initially, but then they started going up again. So something quite interesting has been taking place there. And let's remember that we are looking at active club. An active Toastmaster club can have anywhere between 0 and an infinite number of members in theory. If a club is not in good standing, they do count as active clubs, by the way. So there's been some interesting trend. And of course, now if we look at the average membership per club, well, it's going down, 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 down. And the question I'd kind of like to ask all of you is, can we run a successful club with only 16 members? Yes, no, maybe. I can see some people are saying, yeah, maybe some others are skeptical. No, somebody's telling me that it's hard. Somebody's saying yes, yes. You can, but it's not easy to fill role. The bottom line I'm getting is it is possible, but not as easy as when there used to be around 22 members. But now you might be wondering, membership retention, what has we been doing? Are we perhaps not as good as retaining members now, which is why we're losing so many members? Are a lot of people leaving us due to COVID? Well, it's quite interesting because there is a bit of a trend of the March retention always being higher than the September one, most likely because we're kind of over halfway through our role. We're just a little bit better at retaining members. We know more what we need to do. But in March 2020, just not so great at it. And September, again, not so great. So you might be wondering, well, the renewal that are just gone, surely we must have been quite bad. And actually, the numbers are some of the best ever in the history of the organization. So we seem to have gone better at retaining members despite the pandemic. But now you might be wondering, Florian, something's not quite right with your numbers there. You're telling me that we're getting better at retaining members, but we are losing members at the same time. So what's going on? You're probably looking completely confused, just like this poor little kitty here. What is going on here? What's going on is that we're not as good at recruiting members as we used to be. This line kind of compares the fraction of how better or worse are we at recruiting members in 1 month compared to the same months a year ago. And if we look initially at 2019, just before the pandemic, we were kind of doing a little bit better compared to the year before, sometimes a little bit worse, but it was okay. But immediately as we head towards the pandemic period in March 2020, the numbers started dropping down like a stone. And we could only recruit about half to 40% of the members are recruited in previous years. And that is pretty much the case until now, when we're starting to go back up again, because a year ago, that's when our numbers started going down effectively. So we are better at retaining members, but we got a lot less members coming throughout the doors of our club as an organization right now. And that's a major challenge for us. But what about some other things? What next, you might be wondering, for the organization? Numbers are going down, and where do we go from here, basically? Well, first of all, we're going to need to do a lot of work in rebuilding the organization. We've got to rebuild our membership base in everywhere in the world at all clubs. Let's bear in mind that the numbers I've shown are average for the entire organization. What's the situation here in District 91? It is pretty similar. It's not necessarily as bad in terms of drops, but it is a pretty similar situation, all things considered. And to give you an idea, at the end of March 2020, we had an average of 31 members per club. It has gone down to 22 since then. So quite a big loss for us. Nearly a third of our club's membership strength wiped out overnight. Just imagine that, 10 people in the club lost. So we're going to have a lot of work to rebuild when we go back in person, potentially. But there's also another problem that's kind of starting to emerge across Toastmasters, which is the rise of the living dead clubs, that is. So I mentioned earlier that we've got about 18,300 active clubs, but not all these clubs are in good standing. The clubs in good standing, we only have 16,000, which leaves nearly 2,000 clubs across Toastmasters that are not in good standing. Some of them have got 0 members, some of them have got 3 members, some of them only have 6 members, and they've been in that situation for quite some time now. Eventually, we're going to have to do something with them. Do we close them down? Do we rebuild them? Where do we go from there is the question. But another interesting thing has been happening thanks to COVID, is that the trend towards a non-American organization is accelerating. It was already going down. Even before COVID, we were becoming more and more international. But right now, we're almost approaching parity. And this, by the way, is not the United States, it's North America. So if we look at American membership alone, the American from the USA only make a minority of Toastmasters national members now. They perhaps didn't 2 years ago, or maybe even a year ago. And these numbers are also a little bit conservative, because if you look at the Caribbeans, the West Indies, they are gobbled up with North American district, but they're actually not really North American. So the Mexicans and everything, they are counted as part of North America, when in many ways they perhaps aren't. So the reality is a lot closer to parity than we imagined. COVID has significantly accelerated that trend. In a year's time, the gray will probably be higher than the blue. And I think that as an organization, we have some tough decisions ahead of ourselves. Technology. We've all had our frustrations with Pathways Basecamp. I've had some recently when I was trying to submit something. But also, I mean, for the leaders, with all the multiple systems, we've got Easy Speak, we've got Basecamp, we've got Club Central. Is it not time to bring everything together? Training for leaders. I got trained when I was on the district trio. Everybody received training, but is it really of the standard and the quality that we need going forward, especially to tackle a pandemic and things like that? Some districts in North America have got now less than 50 clubs. Should we shut them down? Should we let them continue? It's something to discuss. Different tiers of clubs. Could it be that the way forward is going to be to put the hybrid clubs and the non-hybrid clubs in different as different tiers, and maybe people joining like an elite tiers of club that has 40 plus members and so on, they might pay a bit more, but they might get a different membership experience, maybe something to explore. And my last one, I'm calling hybrid meetings a Pandora's box here, but in many ways they could be. Let's imagine a club that meets in central London, but where a third of the membership are international members based overseas. What happens if one becomes the club president and is not really able to attend meetings in person and meet the members in person? What happens if one of these members competes and needs to go to the area contest, but the area contest takes place in person? There are a lot of unanswered questions with hybrid meetings just yet. And we might very well be opening a Pandora's box if we go down that route. Does it mean that we need to go back to the old school way of meeting only in person? Maybe. Does it mean that we need to alternate online and offline meetings? Maybe. But there are a lot of things that we need to consider, and we are barely scratching the surface there. But now, my dear audience, the question is up to you. What do you think is going to happen next? What do you think the future of Toastmasters is? And let's have a bit of a discussion now. I can see the chat, but Sonia, obviously, you're very welcome to pitch in as well. Can you see the questions on YouTube and Facebook, Sonia?
I cannot, no.
Okay, so there might be some there, but
I will leave you with the Zoom chat and I'll check the others.
Yes, please do. So go ahead. You can ask a question. You can make some suggestion. I'm very open-ended in the way I imagine this.
I have a question, Florian.
Yes.
There's a lot of new members that I've had the chance to meet that have only experienced the online version of Toastmasters. So they have never even held a speech in person in front of a live breathing and audience with beating hearts.
Yeah.
And I wonder what's going to happen to them, because many joined because of the online platform, because they feel more comfortable in this setting, because they feel like home, because they don't have to be very close to a large group of people and so on. So I wonder if there's going to be another setback once we have the chance to meet in person. What's your take on this? I'm very interested in hearing your take on this.
My take on this is we are in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Damned if we go back fully in person, we will lose these people. The international members that have joined our clubs here in London and elsewhere in the United Kingdom, we will be losing them. So therefore, we're going to lose people. But at the same time, if we say, well, we're going to stay online, we will lose the people that want to go back in person. And then if we go down the hybrid route and you look at the 16 members per club on average, does that club has the resources financially and expertise and manpower wise to run hybrid meetings? Maybe yes, maybe not. What happens if you run hybrid meetings? You've got 10 people in a physical meeting room and only 2 people dialing in online. Is it worth it in this instance? Yes, no, maybe. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, which is why my personal opinion there is that the way to go for clubs will be to alternate in-person meetings with online meetings, which might mean that our clubs, they would need to consider meeting every week or meeting 3 times a month to make it possible. That's my own opinion of what could be a way forward. Time will tell if it happens or not. And I can see somebody said, Siri Chai, my club in Munich has new members from Berlin because we're meeting online. If we go back to meet in person, we will lose them. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Florian, can I say something? Guy?
Yeah, Guy, of course you can.
Hi, how you doing? I think my feeling is that the fundamental reason why most of us joined Toastmasters was to practice speaking in public. And so to cloud and and confuse the kind of the brand of Toastmasters like that, with each club trying to get this wonderful sweet spot, is going to confuse people. So my feeling is that we'll probably find ourselves going back to in-person meetings, but with specialist online clubs who exist. So we do have a choice, and perhaps a subscription fee to the online club could be reduced so that then people can have a choice of being members of both.
Yeah, this is exactly what I mean by having different tiers of club. This could very well be a way to go. I mean, it would happen de facto because in-person clubs would charge more because they would need to pay for the venue. So the Toastmaster fee they charge are the same. It's still $7.50 a month that they have to pay to HQ. But on the top of that, they will need to pay more for their venue. What am I doing with the info suggestion I collect? It's a collective brainstorm, Svetlana. I'm not really planning to do anything with it. Can't you have hybrid meetings with some people live and some people on Zoom? You can, Milika. The question there is, who's going to be looking after the technology? Who's going to be looking after the camera, the microphone, the equipment? Do you have a room where you can set up a camera and set up a screen so that people online can see people offline and vice versa? There's a lot of questions that needs to be answered with regard to hybrid meeting. It's possible, in theory, an hybrid meeting can be run with only a smartphone and a projector screen. In theory, is the quality going to be great? That remains to be seen.
And Florian, we currently have people watching on YouTube and Facebook, but no questions from them.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm still going through the chat.
I do have another question for you, Florian, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Panos.
I've visited a couple of clubs lately, you know, zooming in and out around the globe, and I was suggested to become a member. And the argument they used, like a USP, is join our club because we don't charge anything on top of the TI fees, the fee that goes directly to the TI. And they are planning on doing that in the future. So part of their unique selling proposition is that they will not be charging any club fees. Now, wouldn't that compete with clubs that I might want to join, but they will have to be charging club fees? You see, it's somehow this kind of, it's a disparity that might cannibalize the market, as I see it. No,
it is. Yeah. It is. I mean, there's the competition on membership fees has always been there. Even when we were, even a year and a half ago, you had some clubs in London that were more expensive than others. And you had some clubs in London that were only charging the Toastmasters fee because they had access to a free meeting venue. So that has always existed. But now it is even easier to shop around, so to speak, because all you need to do is you need to find a club that meets at a time where you're available. And if you find one, you can just shop around, try different one. If it's cheaper, if it's more expensive, and so on, you can already do quite a lot of, you can already do that shopping around if you want to.
Florian, I asked because
yes,
I think it's an excellent opportunity. If you start the conversation now and discussions, why not continue at least in region 10? Because that's something which naturally has to be on the agenda of almost every club, not speaking about areas, divisions, and districts. So it was with the purpose, if this is a beginning of discussions of finding the way, because we cannot describe it now, we can only guess, and we are gathering the experience. So that would be an excellent idea to have the start of learnings and sharings between members.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something we could pursue at the scale of Region 10, because we already have some clubs in Region 10 that have done hybrid meetings. I have been to some hybrid meetings in Region 10 in Poland a few months ago. It was an interesting experience. I mean, we are in District 91. We've got a committee that's looking at hybrid meetings. So we've kind of produced some recommendations already. I've written about these on my website as well. But what I kind of want to discuss here tonight as well, it's more hybrid meetings. That's one topic for discussion. But what about the other things? Are we ever going to go back potentially to close to 400,000 members? Do we need to make some tough decision as an organization? Because it's a much broader issue than just hybrid meetings, in my view.
Exactly, and I didn't only meant hybrid meetings, but discussions on COVID, because we talk about consequences of COVID on the health, but we did not yet discuss how this leadership health was affected.
Yeah.
So this was not only about hybrid; it's general the point. So. Yeah. For me, it will be reasonable if that will be the first step, and then few others will follow up. So if you are considering this, that's a point.
It is interesting what Svetlana is mentioning on the leadership health. There has been a few themes in leadership this year. First of all, a lot more people burning out in the last, a lot more leaders at all levels of Toastmasters burning out in the last 12 months. Many more disciplinary issues in the last 12 months. I'm talking across the organization there. People lashing out, being fed up, and so on. Team building at all levels, be it the club level or the district level for leaders, has become significantly more difficult. You can do online team buildings and remote team building to an extent, but it's not as easy as doing it in person. You cannot have a conversation over a drink at the bar, for example, right now. You could replicate it, but all these things are far more challenging now. Some people, some leaders have managed to tackle it, some don't, some not. And it's, and I think there's a lot to be said about the fact that nobody expected things to go so long. I remember when we moved on, I'm like, yeah, maybe in September we'll be back in person, and then everything will be back to normal. But it has gone on for longer than we expect. Let's talk a worst case scenario. You got one of these COVID variant that takes over. The vaccines don't work. We're back to square one. What do we do next? As an organization, it means staying online for even longer. Where does that leave us?
It's about building resilience.
Yeah.
But you don't do it in the crisis. You do it before. So that's how can we use that experience? What works? What could be developed further, and what should be no-go? Because if you read Google's example now they insist that people come back to office. Yeah. So they were first protagonists of saying you can work from home when everybody was at work before COVID. Now with the COVID more or less under control, now they insist that you have more time in the office. So there is something we can look around and shop around and see how this can be adjusted to Toastmasters. And probably the countries from country or region from region will differ, but some small things, basic things will probably be the same.
Yeah.
So, hi Florian.
Hi Nikki.
It's Nikki. How are you?
I'm very well. Always lovely to see you, Nikki.
Thank you. So I'm listening with interest, and I think one of the things with what we do is it does depend to a large degree what is going to happen with the rest of industry. Yeah. I wasn't aware that Google had said that in Europe people need to go back. But as you know, I don't live in Europe. I live in a much more underdeveloped country, and at work at the moment, it's the same in the Middle East, and it's probably the same in India and countries like that. It's really, really difficult for a lot of people to work at home because they live in homes that have much bigger household sizes. They don't necessarily have even a private space. They also don't necessarily have the same level of internet connectivity. Now, I work for a global organization. It's a German-based company, and the organization is pretty split in terms of whether they want us to go back and whether staff actually want to go back or not. So, I mean, I have heard that companies like Unilever and the organization where I used to work prior to where I'm working now, they've actually closed their office in Johannesburg. And then people are never going to go, well, they don't predict that people are ever going to go back. I also know that Unilever have made that comment, a comment similar to that, that their staff are never going to go back to work 100%. So I think to a large degree, it does depend on what happens in industry.
Yeah.
For me personally, having the skills and developing the more advanced skills of communicating in this online environment through Toastmasters, it's made me more efficient and more competent at work to have better conversations and things like that. So it does depend what happens everywhere else, rather than just us deciding this organization, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're not an island. We,
Not
as
at
an
all.
organization, we're not an island. And I look at my club, London Victorian, which meets in central London.
Mm.
A lot of the members, they perhaps won't have an office in central London anymore. Maybe they're not going to be working in London, in central London on Tuesdays. So this is, but we're lucky because we're a weekly club. So for us to say, okay, 1 week we're going to be online, 1 week we're going to be offline. We're going to be offline in the hotel. It's easy for us because we have that space, we have that flexibility. Most of the clubs in District 91 and indeed in the world, they meet every fortnight. So does it mean that you have one meeting a month only online, one meeting only a month only in person? 1 month is quite a long time between meetings, in my view. So this is why, in my view, we're opening a Pandora's box with hybrid, but we have no other choice but to open that Pandora's box. It's what we do with it. Each club is really different. So what works for one club may not work for another club. And another thing I think that's fascinating about, well, membership recruitment being massively down on last year is you would think that because we're now online, we're better at using social media, we're better at selling ourselves, but we're not actually. I mean, I've been to a lot of club meetings where they've even forgot, they don't even introduce the guests anymore. They don't even share information with the guests in the chat and so on. So a lot of things that are now easier to be doing online on paper, like the VPM and Sergeant Arms task, they're actually not done as well online as they are in person. So it's fascinating to observe what's been going on in the past few weeks and months.
Yep.
I can see Dorota Uchek said, only focused and more motivated members may remain, which is probably why our retention is so much higher than it now is, because the hardcore people, the Toastmasters addict, they are staying. And that's a brilliant thing because we're keeping these people. But equally, again, does it mean that we're going to become more and more insular and or only the Toastmasters addicts staying amongst themselves? And I say that because, well, in some parts of the world, this is what's happening. Their retention has gone completely through the roof. But people that are guests, they're like, okay, well, they all speak with themselves. It's like a clique. They all speak their own language. So there's a reverse to the coin on everything we do. It's very interesting.
Absolutely. Florian, let me just interrupt to say that we've got about a couple of minutes before we close the live recordings. But if you are okay, we can stay behind for a few more questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sonia.
You're welcome.
Any more questions, any more points for discussion, please bring them on and mute yourself, just like many people have done.
Lauren, I have one other one.
Yeah, go ahead, Sveta.
If you look to the financial crisis in 2008 and 9, and now the companies which survived because they became closer to members or the customers. That means they knew the needs customers have, or they actually learned. So where are we standing on getting to know our members well, the changed needs, because we can't assume the needs we had before COVID and now are the same.
Yeah.
How good we are on asking our members.
I mean, it's interesting because I think as an organization, we're not necessarily doing a good enough job in that respect. There's a tool that is can be very powerful to get people's opinion is surveys. I mean, in District 91, we've run surveys to non-renewed members in the past, and they've always generated some pretty interesting insight. In my club, we're in the process of doing a survey right now to all the members. Which way do you want us to go? Do you want us to stay online? Do you want us to go back in the hotel? Do you want us to go hybrid? What do you want? And this is an exercise which a lot of clubs will need to be doing. Surveying their members, getting opinion, getting facts, getting information, getting data fundamentally. Could district and then international also do the same thing? It would be advisable as well. And in my view, a very important way for the organization to have its fingers on the pulse is to meet with the members directly. When I was district director, many of you know I was a huge fan of visiting clubs, which meant I had to take the train and travel back last year. And then I did it online, but you get to meet people and you get to see the feeling on the ground that way. And that's something which you're going to need to do even more of, which means that leaders will need to invest more time in their role, paradoxically. So,
Florian, I'm going to stop you there so that we can stop recording. But as I say, once we stop, not everyone is very welcome to stay behind. But just in closing, thank you so much, Florian. That was fantastic. And I'm sure we'll continue the discussion.